Hey guys, it's Shirley Becker and welcome back to my channel. I am finally making this video, my experience of Cambridge. I've gotten so many Instagram DMs, Twitter DMs, I think that's it, and some Snapchats asking me about my experience at the University of Cambridge, and I keep saying this is such a long story. I'm going back to Cambridge today to celebrate my friend's birth, and so I thought it's just the perfect day to speak about my experience of Cambridge. I intend to do two videos. I want to split my academic and my social experience into two. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, encouraging, or informative in any kind of way. I tried to neaten it up today. My hair's from Becca Hair. Before I even begin to talk about my academic experience at Cambridge, I think it's a good idea to kind of paint a picture of who I was and what kind of student I was prior to going to Cambridge. Starting from GCSEs, I literally studied every single day, whether it was Christmas, whether it was Easter, whether it was dinner time. I would skip dinners and study, and it wasn't in a way that I would jeopardize my social life. It's just genuinely what I enjoyed. I genuinely enjoyed going through the content, doing exam questions and getting the exam questions right. It's just what I liked to do, and I was very much encouraged to, and I enjoyed taking extracurricular activities, whether it be joining the youth parliament or whatever, doing assemblies at school to give speeches. This kind of created a student that teachers very much looked at in a way as, this person is very serious about their education, this person is someone we're going to kind of take care of and look after and make sure that she taps into all the opportunities and make sure she fulfills her potential. I feel like at times my school kind of put me on, I wouldn't say necessarily a pedestal, but you know, they would, you know, put pictures of me up on the wall and disclose my achievements in assemblies and make me take part in assemblies, and kind of made me a bit of a poster child at school, which I don't mind. I don't have any adversities to that, but I'm just kind of creating a picture of what school was like. I kind of felt like I had a responsibility to represent my school and represent the student that my school wanted me to be and that my parents wanted me to be, to kind of set an example for my siblings, to set an example for the students. I came from a school who traditionally didn't send a lot of students to Oxford and Cambridge. By the time that I'd got to sixth form, there had been one person in my entire school's history who had gone. I was very much in a mindset that I too wanted to go, and so I kind of felt like if I did make it, then I had a responsibility to kind of represent my school and kind of, you know, tough it out no matter what challenges face me. Just to summarize, I was a student who worked very hard, and I did achieve a lot of A stars. I did achieve a lot of A's at GCSE and in A level, and my school kind of gave me a platform of responsibility to kind of be an example. That's the kind of person I was at school. I very much knew that I was someone who learned through being familiar with what was lying ahead. So I was very much someone who would blaze through all the content, and then all I wanted to do was familiarize myself with the exams and exam techniques. So doing paper after paper after paper after paper after paper, literally, because I knew that the more familiar I became about what was lying ahead of me in terms of summer exams and of year exams, the better chances I would have to score well. And I knew that this approach wouldn't work for universities because, first of all, universities don't have standardized exams across the country, and second of all, I just doubted that there would be room for that kind of method of learning by repetition, which I very much knew I was accustomed to. And so I knew that university was kind of not gonna be as smooth sailing as the A stars and A's that I was able to achieve at school. So this is where the story begins. The struggle really began before I even went. So during the summer holiday, before we were due to start our very first year at Cambridge, they had sent me about 20 to 30 page booklet full of math questions that they wanted me to do. And this was kind of to get a sense where everyone is at mathematically, give us I suppose a kickstart before we even joined the university. So I wasn't even a member yet, I hadn't even matriculated, but in the post I received a 20 to 30 page booklet full of math questions. I opened the booklet and I thought, wow, I can already see that I can't do this work. It's going to be very difficult for me to do. And I already from that moment felt a sense of I am behind. I am already behind and I haven't even started university. So I really had this idea that Cambridge was, because of the way that it's presented as its unique selling point is the fact that you have one-on-one, 1-on-2, 1-on-3 tutorials, and it's very kind of intimate learning, that I thought, okay, they're sending me this booklet. I don't understand 2/3 of it. This university is really a university that wants to help me, and so if I try all the questions that I know I can answer to the best of my ability, then try and work out the ones I can't, then for the ones that I really have doubts that I knew what I was doing, I will write a full page of what I was thinking, where I think my misconceptions are, and where I feel like I can have help. So can you imagine, there are 30 pages full of maths questions. Each question takes up maybe 1/4 of a page, and for every question that I knew I wasn't confident about my answer, I would write a full page explaining what I was thinking. Literally, it sounds so silly now thinking back, but I would literally think, the way that I thought about this was that if you integrate this, it would give you a certain value, blah, 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 blah. Where I think my misconceptions are, write a whole paragraph. Where I think I need help in understanding is, write a whole paragraph. For every question that I didn't know the answer, I wrote a long page like that. Because I thought, okay, they want to help me, so I'm going to make it as easy as possible for them to understand where I don't know enough maths to answer the question. When I sent the document in the post, I think I wrote an email to the kind of head of maths at my college saying that I struggled, but I've sent it and I've sent it in the post, blah blah blah. And very quickly he wrote an email back. So he hadn't even received my answers yet, and he wrote an email back saying, thank you for sending me this email. I recommend that you look into further maths, because I can see you didn't do further maths for A levels. So I did biology, chemistry, physics and maths. And because I already felt like I'm 10 years behind the students that are about to be my peers, I wrote an apologetic email back saying, oh, thank you so much for identifying that I'm behind. Thank you so much for identifying my flaws in math. I sound like such a loser. Thank you very much for identifying that I'm gonna be struggling, and I hope that you can help me. Then we actually get to Cambridge, we start matriculating, and my college had the bright idea that instead of letting us have a freshers week, that they would invite us to come to the university 1 week early so that we can start doing classes before the start of term. I got there late because, you know, I'm from a black family and we're late to everything, and this was my first day moving in, and on my first day moving in I already had lessons. And can you imagine like how intimidating it is? You're starting university and you're like late to class, and it's a very small intimate class because it was just the people who had an intention of studying chemistry or physics at my college, and this was again a mathematics times chemistry or physics class. I came in late and they made me like join a table. Oh my goodness, the class was so difficult to me. I literally didn't know what was going on at all. I felt like all of the class was further maths or had chemistry in it that I had never confronted in A levels, and everyone seemed to know the answers except for me, and we literally came out of there and everyone was like, oh my god, that was so easy, that was so easy, this is like baby stuff. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's you. I literally had no idea what was going on. We haven't even started lectures yet and I'm already like, I'm way out of my depths. This is just the beginning, literally. When you intend to study any single science at the University of Cambridge, they don't let you study a pure science. You basically have to pick natural sciences, which means in your first year you do 4 subjects, in your second year you do 3, in your third year you finally specialize in the one subject that you intended to specialize in from the start, or you might even change your mind, which is kind of the good things about natural sciences. But what it does mean is that you are essentially doing 4 whole subjects in your, it's not 4 modules, it's 4 subjects. So you will do a whole chemistry first year course, you will do a whole material science first year course, you'll do a whole mathematics first year course, and so on and so forth. Especially combined with the fact that we have very short terms, it's so intense to essentially do 4 subjects in a shorter amount of time than the rest of the country is doing 1 subject. It meant that I essentially had to pick subjects that I did not necessarily want to study or was interested in, but I had to pick 4 in order to fill my 4 options. Maths was compulsory and there were 2 streams. There was Maths A and Maths B. A was basically at a slower pace, taking things slower, and you would learn slightly less content than Maths B. Maths B was at a quicker pace and you would learn slightly more content, but at the end of the academic year, Maths A and Maths B both take the same paper, but that small extra content that Maths B learn means that they can answer 2 questions at the back of the exam paper that we can't answer, so they essentially have more question choice than we do. The way that they decided what stream you would enter was they put everyone who studied chemistry and physics into one single lecture hall, and they asked us to put up our hands whether or not we studied further maths, and they said, can everyone who studied further maths put their hand up? And it just felt like the whole lecture hall put their hand up, and they said, okay, we have assigned you Maths B. Can everyone who did not do further maths put their hand up? And literally it was me and one other person. One other person. Mind you, this is just my college though. Me and one other person are the only people in my entire college for that academic year studying physics or chemistry, were the only people who did not do further maths. This is what I've gotten myself into. So they said, okay, we've assigned you to Maths A, which obviously will go at a slower pace seeing as you haven't done further maths. Maths was bloody hard. Like, maths at first year University Cambridge was difficult. It was difficult. But anyway, so that was kind of another hint to me as to the struggles that were to follow. Every week you'll be assigned 1 supervision homework per subject that you do. So you do 4 subjects in first year, so you have 4 pieces of supervision homework to hand in every single week. If you're someone who understands the content just from going to the lectures, great, you can attempt the supervision questions straight away. Each of them might take you about 4 hours. If you are someone who does not understand just from going to the lectures and you have to consolidate the work before you actually understand what's going on, you will probably spend 4 hours trying to understand the work and an additional 4 hours to then attempt the work, which means you have 8 hours of work per supervision homework, then you have 4 of them per week, and they don't count towards anything of your final grade. 32 hours per week of work outside of your lectures and outside of your labs just to do the homework, and then you actually have to work on things that you feel like you need to read up on yourself or research yourself. Coming from the school that I did, where it was very much acceptable to tell the teacher when you attempted the work but you just didn't understand it, and could we leave it for our kind of class to discuss the questions that I didn't understand, I thought, okay, I will do my very best to answer the questions that I can answer, and anything else that I cannot answer, I will say, I have not learnt this in lectures, therefore cannot answer, or I would say, do not understand, please explain. I did attempt everything that I possibly could attempt. For chemistry in particular, I had a director of subject who was very much of the belief that you should assign work that you haven't done in lectures yet, so that it forces the student to read ahead and kind of teach themselves, which I definitely agree with when the student is already up to date with everything they should know and then has the time and room to absorb more information that they have not learnt yet. But when the student doesn't even know what textbooks are applicable to their course, when the student didn't even know that there was a specific textbook that follows the lecture series, and when the student already feels like the homework you gave her in summer holidays was too difficult, that tactic of like teach yourself things that you haven't even learnt in lectures doesn't exactly work. When I saw that my homework had questions in it that we would technically not be able to answer until the end of term because those lectures were coming at the end of the term, I thought, oh, this is my first piece of homework. He's made a mistake. He's given us questions 8 weeks ahead of our lecture course. It must be a mistake. I'll just let him know. We haven't done this in lectures yet. We haven't done this in lectures yet. We haven't done this in lectures yet. And answer the questions that we have done in lectures. Perfect. And I'll hand in my homework and he'll understand that, oh, I need to make sure that I'm syncing my homework more in with the lecture time. So I did that. I gave in the homework, and it took about 1 or 2 days for me to get the angriest email I've ever gotten from a teacher, a lecturer, an academic, whatever, Obviously at that time, because I'd just come out of school and no teachers ever sent me an angry email in my life before. You need to work hard. This is Cambridge. This is not a joke. This isn't school anymore. If you're gonna do well, you need to try your best. You need to actually make an attempt. You can't just give me half-hearted homework. And I was like, whoa, you don't know how much I stressed to even just get that piece of homework done. But okay, and from that moment I was just shook of this person and shook of ever giving someone the impression that I didn't try again, which then later meant that when I confronted, I won't go too much into like stories because this video is getting long already, but which meant that later when I would have supervisions of homeworks that I didn't understand, I would literally feel like I was getting a sort of panic attack where I wouldn't be able to breathe. I would look at the clock, look at the homework and think about how much I don't get it. Look at the time, look at the clock, look at my homework, think about how much I don't get it. And I would just start to kind of choke on my own breath, knowing that I don't have enough time to teach myself the content and then attempt the homework before it's the deadline. And there was a particular time where I just cried and I was on the floor literally like breathing like that because I had 1 hour left to hand in my homework and I hadn't even gotten to the stage where I understood it well enough to attempt the homework, and I just didn't know what to do. I just felt like no matter what I do, the clock is still ticking. Later on, I feel like it became very apparent to this academic that I was getting things so much more slowly than other people, and I feel like he kind of gave up and became frustrated and became tired and felt like his time was so much more worth investing in the students that got it and the students that were gonna uphold his college's reputation. And slowly I just saw him ignore more and more of my emails asking him for help. I saw him become more and more fed up and frustrated of having to teach me. Just sighing, just huffing and puffing, laughing at my answers, just thinking kind of like, I have to do this because this is my job, but I don't want to be here because she doesn't get it. I like him as a person, but I really felt like he went to Oxford. He got the best exam results in his year every single year that he was at Oxford, except for 1 year where he got the second best exam result at the university, which is a phenomenal, I can't tell you how good of an achievement that is. But I felt like that experience meant that he couldn't understand how after telling someone something, they don't understand the content. I feel like there was kind of a disconnect in terms of his brain and like a more average brain and he didn't get that I couldn't get it like that. My problem with the way that he taught was that I feel like he really underestimated how much I did not get taught at school, and so he would use words and vocabulary within chemistry that I'd never encountered in chemistry because no one taught me. So when you say ortho, meta, para, I now know that they are relative positions on a benzene ring. At that time I didn't know that because no one had ever told me what that meant. And so if you're explaining a big concept using little vocabularies that I'm not familiar with, I'm not gonna understand the big concept because this whole time I don't even know you're talking about benzene rings. Although he knew his stuff, I feel like people who know their stuff aren't always the best people to teach. I think the best people to teach are the people who are able to identify where someone's understanding is going wrong. It was very discouraging, kind of having an academic who you can see is getting drained by your stupidity. I knew I was sinking. There's no one that can do anything about it except for me. I don't know how to do better. I don't know what books to access. I don't know what questions to ask because I'm so lost that I don't even have an understanding of where I don't have an understanding. I would often confide in that one other person who did not do further math, because her and I were put into supervision together. We often did our homework together. We both felt like we were drowning. Often we cried together. We laughed together. We did our homework together. We tried to find people who could help us together. I just remember this particular time we were standing in Old Court of Corpus Christi and we were like crying on each other's shoulder, and I was telling her, listen, like throughout school, has there ever been a time where you thought, for real, I am gonna fail? no, it's impossible for us to fail. There's no way that we came from doing so well and being so driven to failing. It's okay. Like, at the end of the day, first year doesn't count, second year doesn't count, but at the very end of this degree, there's no way that we can fail. But that's kind of how my year was with her. We were often like kind of confiding in each other, just feeling out of our depths and just being like, I don't get it, I'm so scared, I'm not going to do well. Come to the end of the year, chemistry was a struggle. I needed to understand how to learn and how to familiarize myself with new learning techniques and new exam techniques. I did evolution and behavior and I absolutely hated the subject. I just felt like it was so pointless. Interpreting bird songs for what? Why do you want to know what a bird is saying? I don't understand. Let the bird sing. I kind of refused to put effort into that subject just because of how much I hated it. Material science, I just could not wrap my head around concepts within material science. I was feeling demotivated by the fact that every time I would kind of put hours and hours and hours into the homework, it would just be wrong. Like, I would think, when I'm thinking I'm making an improvement, it's still wrong. Except there was one concept and one particular subject that I was pretty good at in material science, and I just understood it, and I missed that feeling of just understanding, because that's how A-level was, that's how GCSE was. I just got it. Like, I just understand. There was like one specific module of material science where it was like, I just get this, like, just from lectures, just from listening, this makes sense. The rest of the course did not make sense. Every single one of my subjects kind of suffered from me being demotivated and just feeling like, do you know what, I am the most stupid person. I'm the most stupid person that's ever lived. I literally just thought, I am genuinely like disgustingly unintelligent and stupid. Like, I genuinely thought I've never met someone who is as stupid as me. How can you go to a lecture and not understand what they're saying? How can you go to a supervision and not understand what they're saying? How can everyone else learn and you cannot? For me, if someone is able to answer the question, and the question is not impossible. So the only person that's to blame is myself. If I don't get it, it's because I'm stupid, and that's it. This is how I felt. I don't know if this is true, but this is how I felt. I felt like everyone around me understood and probably looks at me like, I don't get it how you don't get it. Academics probably thought like, I've said it with my mouth, why is it not in your head? I genuinely thought maybe I had to see, like, I don't know, a brain specialist to see if I genuinely had issues. Perhaps I have less synapses. Perhaps something is genuinely wrong because I don't understand how I'm in the position I'm in where I don't get it. Come results time, it was like the most devastating, probably the most devastating like thing that's ever happened to me. And that sounds dramatic when, you know, there are people obviously who are starving, there's so many things happening in the world, but this was genuinely like, I just never felt so much shame, so much like, I don't even know what to say to my parents. I felt like I was just a failure of a daughter, a failure of a student, a failure of a sister, a failure of everything, because how can I present this grade to you? Even Henry, when I met him, I refused to tell him my grade. He obviously didn't know me when I was doing GCSEs and A-level, and it's like, I don't want you to create a perception of me that's based on this grade, because this is not how stupid I am. I know this isn't how stupid I am, and I know this is not how stupid I've always been. As embarrassing as it is, I think it's important because I don't really see people sharing their story of when things went really, really bad. Sometimes people share their stories when they think it went really bad, but in comparison, it's like, if you think that's bad, you should have heard my grade. First of all, they assign you a grade, and second of all, they publish something called a public class list, which basically means they rank you according to your subjects. Like, everyone on your subject, they rank you from highest achieving to the lowest achieving, and they publicize it on the front of the Senate House, which is like a staple point in Cambridge. So people, literally tourists, come just to look at other people's exam results and to see where they rank in comparison to each other, which kind of creates this very competitive nature. I knew what my grade was going to be. I've never mispredicted my grade. Lo and behold, Shirley, who had never really got a bad grade in her life ever before, had got the worst grade that you can get at university. Just longing out my words so that I don't have to say it. But I cannot believe this. I got a 3rd in my first year. And I've never really heard someone share their grade when they've got the lowest grade that you can possibly get without failing. People tend to only really share when they either hit the benchmark or they exceed it. That in combination with being told my ranking, which I still don't know exactly the number, I just know how far from bottom I was, because this is the way that I saw it. I was about 50th from bottom of the list, and I just saw it as like, Shirley, you are genuinely so stupid and so unintelligent that you literally came 50th from bottom. You came 50 numbers away from the bottom of the rank. Do you know how stupid and idiotic you are? You literally nearly failed. And this is how I looked at it. I looked at it as only 50 more people and I would have been the worst grade for natural sciences in the whole university of that year. And I literally just felt in this moment like, I don't deserve to smile. I don't deserve to have a summer of fun. I shouldn't go outside. I should just stay in my room and not see anyone, not talk to people, because I don't deserve happiness when I've performed in this way. Like, to go out and have fun when I've disgraced like everything that I should be and the standard that I should hold myself up to. I was told that I have to go to my university during the summer to come for a meeting to discuss my grade and how the hell this disgusting grade has possibly happened. That's how I saw it. Yeah, I kind of lied to my parents about why I had to go back to Cambridge. I didn't want them to know how badly it was going for two reasons. One, because it was the most embarrassing thing that like had ever happened to me in my life to get that grade. I feel like it would, in my head, reinforce their disappointment in me, but they weren't ever disappointed. I had two meetings. I had one with my tutor and one with my supervisor. And your tutor is kind of there to kind of take care of your well-being, whereas your supervisor is there to take care of your academics. Battery died. And I decided to go to a mom's birthday in Cambridge and then come back and film it. I was at the stage where I was having the meeting with my tutor regarding my grade, and in this meeting, you know, he kind of explained that it's kind of concerning and worrying that I performed at such kind of a low standard. So we were talking about that, and kind of he was asking me what more could we have done, and I just didn't really know the answer because I just felt like I was the one to blame, like it was my fault that I was stupid. That's the only answer I could really come up with. He then proceeded to let me know that he had been looking at other universities that I could go to. And this was absolutely devastating news to hear, that someone has looked for an alternative university on behalf of you. To me, that was an indication that they felt like that was the best option. Clearly it wasn't the best thing for you to be here. Whilst you were at home, I searched for universities for you to go to. Like, my dream was to go to Cambridge. My dream had been to go to Cambridge since year 9, so how can someone tell me that now they're presenting me an array of universities and Nottingham would be very happy to accept you, this university would be happy to accept you? And I was just thinking, like, no one has even asked me if I wanted to leave, but you've already gone and found universities for me to leave to. But the way that I responded to him was to explain, like, look, I feel as though I have a duty to my school, to my family, to not give up and to complete this course at the university that I set out to complete a degree in. I'd rather struggle, I'd rather keep trying than to give up and have to tell everyone that I didn't do it, even though I was the second person from my school to go, and it was such a big deal for my school that I didn't do it. Even though I said since year 9, like, mum and dad, brother, sisters, I want to go to this university, like, I got the opportunity and I didn't do it. How do you expect me to go to everyone and say, I just gave up, or this is what's happened? Like, for me, that was, I couldn't conceptualize that even ever happening. And so I explained that I didn't want to go and that I wasn't willing to go. And he understood and he said, fair enough. I guess that will mean that next year you have to kind of step it up a gear. And I said, I will, like, I will work harder, even though I had completely exhausted myself in first year, but exhausted myself in the wrong way. And this is what I want to emphasize, is that in moments where you're not getting out what you put in, sometimes it's not because you're unintelligent and incapable. You're not channeling your effort into the right place. So although I might work this many hours per week. I'm not working on the right thing, and that was the problem. I needed to identify what it was that I need to work on and how I need to work. What works for my head? This new education system that I'm now in, how can I best use my time, my resource, my energy, my efforts, my brain power to kind of get the most out of it? So now I move on to the second meeting, which is with my director of subjects, and he was just like, you know, first year is easier than second year, which is easier than third year. So if you want to complete this degree, you just have to keep stepping it up. And in order to do this, you're going to start reading from now. I'm going to give you a reading list. I'm going to give you a bunch of books, and you're going to start reading from now to prepare for second year. 10 big fat books out of the corpus library in order to kind of give myself a head start. I definitely understand why that is necessary for someone who fell so close to failure, I suppose. But at the same time, it's kind of like a hard pill to swallow when you kind of see it in a way where it's like, I don't deserve to have a nice summer, that this is why, like, this is kind of my punishment, rather than to see it purely as like, this is for my benefit. I kind of saw it as like, this is my punishment, because people who do well deserve to enjoy their summer. People who don't well don't deserve to be happy, don't deserve to enjoy their summer. They need to use the time in their summer to prevent themselves from being a failure. And that's like the way that I saw it. Yeah, that is what happened over the summer between first and second year. And then I'd return to university, and this feeling of kind of guilt, almost guilt that I'd underperformed so much, and guilt that I in my mind had done the worst that anyone has ever done at the university, even though I knew my result wasn't the worst result. And not that that matters, not that that would make me feel better or worse, like to compare to people necessarily, but just me comparing to my own standards. I'd never got an actual bad grade in my life, like, so I didn't see myself as a person that needed to get bad grades. Like I feel like I was definitely extremely hard on myself. And this then wasn't necessarily helped by the feeling that I got when I returned in second year. So first of all, when I returned in second year, obviously everyone shared their grades. I never went to the public ranking list to see what other people's grades were, because I wasn't really interested in other people's grades. I was just comparing me to myself and my own standard and my own ability. But inevitably, when you return and everyone has got their grades, everyone wants to talk about grades. And I felt like this was the only thing people wanted to talk about. I can't tell you how bad you feel about yourself when the only subject that people want to talk about is the one subject you feel like will give the worst impression of you. I am not someone who's incapable of doing well, but that grade is the only thing that everyone can judge me on, because no one went to school with me, is now the grade that's representative of my ability and my capability. And sure enough, no one else that did chemistry at my college had got the grade that I'd got. Everyone had got a first, or everyone had got a 2-1, including that person that I cried with, I moaned with, I worked with. For sure, when I see people do well, it definitely makes me happy for them to do well. The only thing that it made me feel was that when I say I'm struggling, and when I say I don't understand it, and when I say I feel like I'm falling below the benchmark, I felt like I genuinely meant it. And when someone is complaining to the same level and shedding the same amount of tears and feeling the same amount of stress, what they mean, or essentially the standard that they're actually working at, is a standard that's more than satisfactory, is a level of performance that will suffice in this world. Because I actually fell so far below a benchmark that you didn't. So when you say I don't get the work, and when I say I don't get the work, we mean two completely different things. And this was a reality that I really feel like I learned in that moment, and that continued throughout my time in Cambridge, where people would complain just as much as I did, and use the exact same words as I did to describe a completely different position that they were in. Yeah, I just felt like very much alone at that point. I just felt like no one understands what I really mean when I say this is hard, this is difficult. So at the start of the year, they kind of group you, so you pick your subjects and they kind of group you in terms of what supervisions you're going to be having, who's your supervisor going to be, who's your supervision partner going to be, and all that kind of stuff. Basically, this is traditionally supposed to be an entire year group meeting that is held with all the people doing the same subjects as you. chemistry. So everyone doing chemistry will have one big meeting, and then that's where all the arrangements are made. And so when I was called for this meeting, I was expecting to see everyone else that was doing chemistry. But when I was called for this meeting, it was just me. I went up the stairs and down the stairs. I saw everyone else that was doing chemistry that just came out of their meeting, and then me that was having a meeting all by myself. This brought a sense of isolation. This brought a sense of, we need to separate the stupid from the people who have hope and make sure they don't mix. That's how I saw it. Every other single person who did chemistry was spoken to together, and I was spoken to separately. Obviously, I completely understand that, like, people who perform to a similar standard need to be grouped together so they can help each other. It doesn't slow down sort of the speed at which they're learning. But I guess I was just frustrated that I deep down still had the belief that I'm not a lost hope, I'm not a lost cause. So I was just frustrated that it was like, now all the academics feel that I need to be separated from everyone else because I'm here and everyone else is there, when I felt like I can be there. I just need to figure out how I learn. I just need to figure out how to tackle this new thing that I'm not used to. This new thing that I wasn't well prepared for. My school did not prepare me well for this. Again, heartbreaking to kind of see everyone kind of losing hope in me and kind of making that evident through separation in meetings. I was supervised all by myself. So normally supervisions are 2 students and 1 academic, or 3 students and 1 academic. And that was the case for everyone else except for me, where it was me and an academic. And of course I feel like this was definitely to help, but to an extent I felt like there was a sense of, we don't want you to ruin anyone else, so we need to have you supervised all alone by completely different people than everyone else. I didn't have the same supervisors as everyone else did. Throughout the year I felt like definitely quite down and just beat up and just undeserving of my place there. There's a traditional chemistry dinner that happens every single year where all the chemists from the college are invited, and it's kind of meant to be a really fun event. I refused to go. I felt like I don't even deserve my place at chemistry here, and I'm just making the jobs of my academics more difficult, and I'm just letting down my college's results. And in second year, it had kind of I'd got kind of so stressed and preoccupied with just wanting to do well, because I'd been so hard on myself as a consequence of what had happened in first year. I was so focused on wanting to do well, but at the same time I feel like that desire was really consuming me. In order to kind of feel like still human, I went to the gym a lot, at times 2 bowls of cereal, and go to the gym and run 30k, do squats, do weight training. I wouldn't feel the effects of it because I never felt like low on energy, where I was kind of like neglecting, you know, making sure that I eat this many times a day, making sure that I go and see my family this many times a month. I am 5'10". By the end of second year, I was 59 kilos. I wasn't concerned with like dinner or anything like that when it's like I still have work to do. So anyway, going into second year, the number of subjects is reduced to 3 subjects, and I did physical chemistry, organic chemistry and pharmacology. And having kind of a higher percentage of chemistry subjects in my mix made it easier for me to kind of channel and focus on the subject that I intended to do, which was chemistry. But anyway, chemistry was still very, very much difficult, but I saw in second year that I was starting to enjoy it more. I have to give thanks to some of the supervisors that I was working with in second year, particularly one who was a PhD student, who I just felt like did not speak to me in a way and did not treat me as if I was incapable of getting it, you know. If I would use kind of a very careful and long method of working things out, he would just say, take off your diapers and just do it like this. As if talking to me in a way where it's like, I know you can, so just do it. And that was very encouraging. And in the end, when I sat the exam for that module that he taught me, I think I performed best in that module, which was inorganic chemistry and learning about, you know, borane rings and things like that. And getting that sense of feeling back where it's like, I'm getting it. I'm getting good at this. This is becoming easy, was really encouraging for me and really kind of a kick that I needed. Pharmacology, I started off not really liking it that much because I feel like it interfered with my ability to focus on chemistry. I will admit that I feel like I put a lot less effort into pharmacology at the start. I would just rely on the lectures and not really want to use too much of my free time to consolidate that work so I could spend more time on chemistry. So literally throughout the year, I was so terrible. We would have to hand in essays every single week. There was like a mathematical side and an essay side of pharmacology, and the mathematical side I actually found very easy. Drawing graphs, calculating different things, rate of absorptions, whatever. So he expected me to get a first in the mathematical side of pharmacology. When it came to the essay side, however, I was clueless throughout. So literally throughout the year, every essay that I handed in had a bad grade, literally fail. Every essay that didn't count for anything that I hadn't in throughout the year. When it came to about 1 month before the exams, I was literally like, do you know what? This pharmacology, what would happen if I just put the same energy, the same confidence and the same attitude into this subject as I used to do in A-level? Because I realized this subject is very much about just becoming familiar with everything, repeating until you remember. This is such a key, repeat until you remember. And so I decided, let me look at all the different subjects in pharmacology and make a poster to hang on my wall. Every day I will go around the walls and I will repeat in words the entire content of second year pharmacology. It took me a long time, but I tried to make it as condensed as I could, but with as much information. And I would literally go around and say, so these drugs, edrophonium, tacarine, donepezil, neostagmine, pyridostigmine, physostigmine. And then I would say what they do, I'd say where in the body they work, diabetes, type 1, type 2, I would just repeat and recite the entire contents of pharmacology every single day in my bedroom by going around the posters and telling the story. I created a story of my subjects, and in that way it became ingrained in my mind, where when I now started to practice essays in the comfort of my own room without them being marked, it was literally like I would see a title and I would recite what I knew was on my wall and what I knew I'd been reciting every single night. Come to the exam now, having put in that work 1 month before the exam, I ended up scoring mid to high 2-1 in that subject. And to go from an essay that is a fail every single week to a mid to a high 2-1, mind you, in the exam there was a whole essay, an entire essay, which I didn't do. So I skipped an entire essay and still came out with a mid to high 2-1. For me, that was really an indication that, do you know what, Shirley? You need to be more confident in yourself. You need to own this a bit more. You need to remember how you used to do in sixth form. All doing well in exams is being familiar with an exam. Clearly, if I put the right kind of energy and the right kind of work and I channel my efforts into the right thing, you're capable, because you managed to do it in a month just because you focused your energy into the right method of study. In chemistry, I still didn't do that well, because there were parts of chemistry where I still struggled in. So I had gotten a 2-2 overall, which I was still very disappointed in, but at least I had some confidence knowing, not even that I'd done better overall, but that if I do use the right mode of studying, that I can be just fine. So come third year now, after kind of recognizing that, do you know what? You can have this, you can do this. I came on the best energy come third year. I came on the biggest drive, the biggest motivation that, you know what, I'm just gonna keep going and keep going, and I'm only gonna do the things that I feel benefit me. If someone gives me a crazy amount of homework, if it's not gonna help me and I'm only doing it so I don't get in trouble, guess what? I'm not gonna do it, full stop. If I feel like what you're handing me isn't actually what I need to be doing for me, I'm not doing it. I was really just on doing what I feel like was helpful for me. I'm gonna do my absolute best and I'm gonna come out the other side just fine. Like, despite what happened in first year, despite the fact the second year didn't go as well as it really should have, I was just super motivated. And I think this kick of motivation really was exaggerated by the fact that basically I have a college mum and a college dad. And my college dad is also a chemist. And my college dad had gotten a 3rd in first year, a 2-2 in second year, and a 1st in his 3rd year, and had come back for a master's. This, first of all, is this first time that I'd like encountered someone who had done what in my mind was as badly as I had done. And in the end, none of that mattered, because their only grade that counts is their 3rd year grade. And guess what? They got the absolute best grade that they could have possibly got in their third year. If that's possible, then why can't I try and do the same? Super focused, super determined. When it came to the lab side of things, I was never really interested in going to labs because I just felt like it's a waste of time. It's not really helping with me being able to write an exam at the end of the day, and our courses are heavily weighed on our exams. I was just super motivated, determined and enthusiastic about all parts of my course, which was fully chemistry. And so when it came to the labs, I was just like, I'm gonna go to the labs. I don't care to be home late. I don't care if that means I eat at 11 p.m, which I did. Nearly every day I ate at 11 p.m. I want to love the labs. I want to go ham in the labs. Like, I want to enjoy it. I want to do as best as I can do. And I was literally just like every day waking up, go to lectures, go to the lab and stay until as long as I can stay, as long as I need to stay. And I would just do experiment after experiment after experiment and go home, type up my lab report until about midnight, and then I would eat, or until about 11, and then I would eat. So literally my days were from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. every single day, just work straight, which I don't think is necessarily healthy, but I was just enjoying it. So for me, it was kind of work and leisure mixed into one, having that routine. And by the end of it, I completed all my lab experiments in how many weeks? I don't remember. In a very short space of time. The lab technician had dubbed it the fastest time it's ever been done before, which I can't really give myself that credit because there was no official record for it, but he would just say, if you can get it done in this amount of time, you would be the fastest. And I got it done before that amount of time with like 3 days to spare. Those lab reports and experiments came to a first. And then came the lectures, and there were still parts of lectures that I was definitely moaning about and complaining about. And a particular lecture series which was theoretical chemistry, which I literally just thought, you know, this one is cancelled. Like, I'll be happy and determined for everything else, but this subject is so cancelled because there's no way that I'm gonna understand this. And for everything else, I was being enthusiastic, whether it be inorganic chemistry again, organic chemistry I started loving for the first time, doing retrosynthetic analysis. Everything else I was enjoying except this one subject, and it literally made my eyes red and made me tear up at times. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Easter holiday, where during my holidays now, I would come home and it would be wake up, library, gym, eat, sleep. Wake up, library, gym, eat, sleep, because I was just on like, I'm gonna do this. I got a 3rd in first year, I got a 2-2 in second year, and I need to finish on a high just like my college dad did. Like, he was such an inspiration and motivation to me. So yeah, one of those days in the library, I was just like, Shirley, do you know what? Use any resource you can, use any energy you can to understand this lecture series. You can't afford to throw away a whole module again, just like you did in pharmacology. You threw away a whole essay. Even though it constantly feels like you don't have enough time, dedicate your time to understanding this content. And so Oxford, your lecture notes, I have to give a shout out because it was so helpful. I did not get my lecture notes properly until I looked at the Oxford lecture notes and looked back at mine and looked back at examples and looked back at answers that I found on the internet. And then everything started to click. And then I was like, do you know what? I'm going to go through every single module within this module of chemistry and make sure that if I get a question on this part of theoretical chemistry, will I be able to answer it? Yes, check. If I get a question on this part, will I be able to answer it? Yes, check. If I get a question on this part, will I be able to answer it? And did that for the whole entire booklet. And in the end, it didn't even consume that much of my time. It took about 1.5 weeks of every single day, around 10-11 days in a row, just focusing on that one module time. And by the end of it, I could answer the exam questions for every single topic within that module. And it was like something I felt like I could never ever, like I was like, this one from the beginning, I was like, it's cancelled. In the end, I was confident in answering a question to the point where I then went back and helped someone else by sharing my understanding and sharing how I answered those questions. And in the end, in the exam, guess what I got for that module? I got a first. The one that I literally thought I'm not gonna answer the question if it comes up, to being so confident that I was able to help someone else to then getting a first in that question. Like, I was just so happy. In the end, obviously, I wanted a first overall. Did I get that? No, I got a 2-1, but I was still very, very, very happy to kind of come out at the end of everything and just be able to breathe. I deserved this. I belonged here. It wasn't a mistake for me to be here. It was none of that. For the first time, I genuinely felt like I did it and I could always do it. This brings me kind of near the end of the video and to the part where I would want to advise you. And it took so long for me to make this video and like for the first time share even the grades that I'd got, because for such a long time it was just like the most humiliating and embarrassing thing that had ever happened to me. But then I thought to myself, like, two things. For one, I feel like a lot of people share their stories about Cambridge or about just different things in life, and a lot of the time you don't really hear about it until you're on the achieving side of things. And then it gives people the impression that if they do end up going to the University of Cambridge, they're going to be frolicking in the winds with like-minded students who love learning, and it's just going to be about loving your learning and loving your studying, and it's going to be challenging, maybe a little bit challenging, but nothing is impossible. And I just wanted to kind of give a realistic perspective of how challenging it can really be, and it's not frolicking in fields of wheat, and it's not holding your like-minded friends' hands because you all love studying so much. But it is a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, and a lot of testing of your confidence, your self-belief. I kind of just wanted to share my story and kind of give, you know, another perspective where it's like, you might not do well, you know, it's possible for you to not do well, because it sounds like everyone just gets 2-1s or first, but that is not the case. There are people who get bad grades, and that's really what I wanted to emphasize in this video, is that if you feel like you're someone who's underperforming, or if you felt any way that I felt, that there are people who feel that same way and who experience that same thing, because I genuinely felt like I was completely alone, and thus I was the only stupid one that existed in the world. And then also to link to that is that doesn't need to be you forever. Yes, you could have done badly, but you can always pick up and change that reality, just like my college father did and inspired me, just like I then did and hopefully can inspire someone else. Don't completely pummel yourself to pieces for underperforming at the start, because in the end, the only thing that matters is exactly that, the end. My final grade, a 2-1, is like, I know it's just average, but I'm still proud that from everything that I went through to get that grade in the end. Yeah, I'm happy that I was able to kind of share that sense of pride with my family, with my teachers. I don't know, it just made me really happy. This was probably an incredibly long video. I am not looking forward to editing this, but I hope it was helpful. When I promised that I was going to share my experience of Cambridge University, complete honesty, complete openness, despite the fact that parts of it is so embarrassing. I plan to do a video on my social experience of the University of Cambridge, and I don't want it to be such a long walkthrough from first year to third year. So please, 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 in the comment section below, let me know what questions you want me to address in that video, and I'll make it more of a Q&A. If you made it all the way to the end, take a deep breath, it's almost over, and hopefully I will see you very soon in the next one. Goodbye.